Let's see how things are looking in the markets right now. Uh, quick, quick, quick temperature check, quick pulse check. It's not looking as gravy or green as it was last week, I think. What are your guys' thoughts? I haven't been on a timeline a whole lot.
I mean, people are up. The timeline never recovered after FTX at all. It was it was so
Meaning,
damaging for the
yeah,
mental health, trading strategy of all different crypto market participants because, like, April we were at 75K, all right, and then from February we were at 75K, and now we've gone and broken new all-time highs. If this was in 21, even 2016 to 2018, people would be rejoicing with happiness. But because everyone is over leveraged on alts, dead in the water coins, without much exposure to BTC, it's like the most hated BTC all-time high ever, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be looked at like gold, like Bitcoin to alt should now be looked at similarly to gold versus stocks. Like no one that likes stocks cares about if gold's making an all-time high. It's actually
yeah.
bad. Like if anything, it's a negative often, right? Like risk off sentiment. So I think it's time for people to start viewing BTC similarly. I mean, yeah, you have all of like the signal confirmation that you need. It's making new all-time highs amidst like a an environment of uncertainty, right? Like what are equities doing? You know, they're not like pushing new all-time highs. So it's kind of like a lone man type situation. So it's like it's telling you that it's it's tagging on to like a new narrative. So it, this is like a new thing just within the past few months, and I mean it's definitely good for BTC, but yeah, Bitcoin made new all-time highs. Total crypto market cap did not make new all-time highs, including Bitcoin. It's still below its all-time highs, right? All-time highs like 3.9 trillion. So still, sitting well below that. Um, and then obviously, yeah, like I mean, yeah, it's not like wrong to say that the timeline actually hasn't recovered since, or even before FTX, like the end of 2021, just like a different time when like you had much less tokens, much less coins, and then it was moving in sync. Like Bitcoin and alts are moving in sync, right? It's just like M2 money supply increasing. Like it's more on that narrative, right? Like that's the source of flows. So I mean, today it's a different source of flows for Bitcoin, and that source of flows doesn't come down to alts, right? Who's buying Bitcoin? I think BlackRock's was it their CIO? She said that like 50% of the people buying the Bitcoin ETFs are like they have basically a financial advisor, right? So that's not like no
Mm,
one under 40 or 50 years old has a financial. That's like some boomer stuff. So that's like a very different demographic of people that are buying Bitcoin via those ETFs. You had those
yeah.
massive ETF inflows than who was buying Bitcoin in 2021. So and those dudes are not buying alts. Like have an actual
Hell no.
they have an advisor. Like they're not buying. And then the other 50% of the people buying those ETFs, I mean, you can take a guess who it is, right? You had, I think, one of the big Saudi funds. They had like 500M of those ETFs. So it's just not like, yeah, retail has not actually recovered at all. Like
Retail's broke.
yeah. Your sentiment's down the drain. Yeah, that's a real thing. Like, and the data corroborates that as well. Um, yeah, since in 2021 you had Americans obviously had like their stimmy checks. Like that's just not a thing today, right? Like dudes are financing like DoorDash orders now, right? Um,
Burrito CDOs.
like yeah. I mean, you had these memes, but like the memes, yeah, it's like a real thing, right? Like the 60% Coachella thing, like that caught a lot of headlines. People making memes about that. But yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
indicative of like an actual thing, and yeah, the underlying cause of that is it means your coins don't go up as much. So
And
now, yeah,
then,
like nowadays, like what is like the best performing token, like from um inception, like from TGE to now, is like at scale. right? Like hyper liquid, I guess. So it's like
Mm.
one, and then in 2021 you had like Solana, like went from just a couple bucks, so that's like 100x right there. You just don't have those anymore. So
Mhm.
so it's actually
Yeah.
like it actually makes sense. It doesn't make sense to say like the timeline is not recovered since 2021. Like that actually is true.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a different time. What's even funnier with that DoorDash bit? It's like DoorDash or whoever was financing it took a hit because so many people were actually then defaulting on those loans. I suppose it's like it's funny as hell. But okay, to your point, yeah, it seems like BTC and crypto are like kind of decoupling the way we often talk about like how crypto is decoupling from like stocks or something like that. It's actually seems like you're saying that BTC and the rest of crypto is sort of decoupling of each other. Okay, that's very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
We're
I mean,
we're
people were
gonna
talking about that for a little while, but
yeah.
like in the past, especially in the past like week, past 2 weeks, it's like it can't get any more
Started.
obvious, right?
Yeah. All
Yes,
right.
pushing to
Let's
all-time highs, and yeah, alt sentiment is not yeah, hype making new all-time highs. That's
let's
about it though.
We just need fart
let's
coin to
touch on
hit
that
all-time
further.
highs.
Oh man,
For the no, hear me
don't get us
out.
started.
Hear me out. The Holy Trinity portfolio, if you truly think about it in this environment, would be Bitcoin, Hyperliquid, Fartcoin. Bitcoin,
See, I mean,
Hyper.
I'm not even necessarily like
I
I
get
think
what
there's
you're
actually
getting
like
at.
a little bit a truth to it. Like I know he's getting it like as like a as like a tracker, as like an index for like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
hyper, that fast moving, like
That
dumb retail
segment.
money, like Solana
Yeah.
based, like, and XRP is like another one, a different type of retail, right? XRP is more like people that have a lot of money. It's like high earning individuals, but like they're not like crypto native, right? Like 50-year-old, I don't know, like white collar jobs, or like doctors and dentists, stuff like that's like the patented one, right? Like you want to target those people that have high incomes, but they're not really like you know that financially savvy. It's like XRP, yeah, XRP, Farcoin, high, like you can make a case for these. Like they represent different um segments of that retail base.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
and I,
unironically, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I think the last thing about something as ridiculous as Fartcoin, right, is that for me, I always look at these things as like you guys must have you guys watched Squid Game?
No,
Sure, of
I didn't
course.
actually.
Yeah.
Come
So
on.
so in the newest series, right, there's an excerpt where he goes, "I've played these games before." Yeah? When he goes back
Mm-hmm.
in. And there's a certain parallel to that, to the crypto markets, that I feel like if you hang around and you're mentally ill long enough to keep trading these markets, you do see certain stories, certain narratives that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
remind you of previous times. It's not
yeah.
like, oh, in April 2021, we went up by 25%, so the same thing happens now. No, it's not that. In the previous market, we had big runs from Doge and SHIB. They were so hated, so hated, to the point where even most people who traded crypto back then, a lot of them were sidelined from the run seen in Shiba and Doge. And for me, right, I look to where we are now and I just see a lot of parallels with something as ridiculous as Fartcoin because people hate it. There is no reason why it should be worth so much. It's bigger than many publicly listed companies, right? And
Yeah, yeah, it's like the Denny's. Yeah, I think it's like valued much more than Denny's. Yeah, some
yeah,
of these like low margin, like but popular like retail
and it has a
restaurants.
reflexive
Yeah,
effect, I believe, in that it's so hated that all these guys out there who hate it so much, it's never been easier for them to come and short Fartcoin. And I think inevitably there's people who laugh at it and think this funny, and then they buy some. And I think ultimately it just creates this loop where people hate it, they short, people laugh at it, they buy. And ultimately, I think that's the push and pull between it as an asset, which is why, it's up like, I don't know how much is up from its lows. I think it was at like 0.2 at the lows, and it's like 1.2 now. So it's like near a 6x. just around a 6x from the lows. So people hate things, and sometimes the most hated assets will kick the dirt in your face when you try to show your hatred towards it.
It just fuels the fire. Now that we got started and we got the show underway and we got people joining, I want to kick it off proper real quick. We don't have a guest today, but that doesn't matter because we got the Alea team right here. So, if you're here for the first time, welcome to the new Market Cap episode. Here we discuss market movements, current events, trending narratives, and together with our team, we explore the underlying themes a bit further. So I'm your host and moderator. I'm Stefano, Director of Institutional Service at Alea Research. With me, I have Daniel, who's our research lead, and we have Darren, our analyst and panel contributor. So, guys, let's do it real quick because this is going to be a short one. Let's get into it. We used to start off the show always with like some macro news or insights. Let's go back to that. And I think Darren can help us out here. There was an interesting bit, like a news bit last week that was touching on the situation with the Japanese bonds, and you digged a little bit further. Can you, because I'm laying it out very, very generally here, but can you explain a little bit more about what we're talking about and like the stuff that you uncovered?
Yeah, so to keep it simple, because no one wants to be bored by boring macro ramblings on bond
I do.
yields, right? Well, thank you. So, in short, the Japanese government is changing how it borrows money. It's doing this by issuing more short term bonds and fewer long term bonds in 2025. This is very similar to what happened in 2023 under Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who issued more short term Treasury bills. Some people coin these moves as shadow yield curve control, in
Right.
which it
Yeah,
aims
it's always
to,
obfuscated. Yeah, you got to hide
it,
it.
it has to be. You can't tell
Yeah.
people that we're doing these
Same as the
cycles.
U.S. Yeah, okay,
Exactly.
same thing.
And the aim is always to keep the long term interest rates low. So if you look at any charts or any of these bond yields, the big story over the last few weeks or months is the sheer rise that you've seen in some of these longer duration bonds. Now, for someone who really doesn't understand, one of the easiest ways to understand this is that by issuing more short term bonds, like Janet Yellen did in 2023, it keeps certain interest rates low. It has an effect where it weakens the currency, and you might argue it could make investors more confident. In turn, it can sometimes lift stock prices, especially for people who export. And then this comes to the point, well, what does this pertain to my digital currencies? Who are you? You're a madman talking rubbish, which is kind of true. But it encourages people in sense to buy maybe perhaps more riskier assets in this case. It's not the same as printing money, but it can still at times give the market a bit of a push. And the whole story in 2023 was that we were going through this rate hiking cycle. Maybe we were just before the first few rate cuts, and it was the pre election year. And some people stipulate that this similar move was done to make the market look better in time for the re-election or election of Trump, re-election of Biden. So, it's not exactly that now this happens, we're going to go to the moon. But I think the bigger story is that we're no longer at a place where simply governments can print money to save everyone in the market. We're at a stage now where bonds are becoming so increasingly volatile that actually governments and central banks are having to step in using these different three-letter anagram words to try and dampen the volatility in these markets through things like issuance, through things like using money from all these different accounts that they control. So
Hmm.
that's the long and short of it, I'd say.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
um, definitely a move to shorter, yeah, the shorter duration notes, those treasuries. I mean, this was even seen like not in Japan. is seen in the U.S. Like it's hard to source like completely transparent data on this, but
Mhm.
because yeah, it's like it seems like China's also moving towards that path. Okay, right? Like China has their European vehicles, their companies in the EU that hold a lot of these U.S. assets, and then so when you're analyzing China's bond and treasury holdings of the U.S., you have to like incorporate these like Luxembourg, like these kind of places as well, like some of these small countries that mostly serve as like middlemen for this kind of stuff. And yeah, it seems like they are shifting their holdings to like not so maybe not like completely just selling off their holdings, but their preference is definitely changing to the shorter duration. So yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, I think it's like a warning. It's like another warning. I mean, there's already been a lot of warnings, but yeah, rates aren't like the big like for a long time. But yeah, 2022, 2023, yeah, like rates were like the big thing. Like, oh, the rates are going up. Rates are going up. When are the rates going to come down? But like, yeah, there's a whole another like there's the monetary policy
It's not
side, and
that
there's
simple.
yeah, it's not that simple. And then yeah, obviously the you have the treasury, and then yeah, and now you have the fiscal side as well, right? With that, I think we didn't discuss it last week. You had the Trump spending bill. It's like so that obviously had a significant impact on the bond market. It's like another so yeah. I mean, you can imagine Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent like dude has to like navigate these options. Like Trump's throwing tariffs at him. He's throwing like these spending bills or like so he's like dodging obstacle after obstacle. Like because how can you go around making your rounds around the globe trying to sell bonds, and then like the guy you're working like the president that they work with is like constantly yeah. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic, and like it actually changes like day to day. Like it's like almost every day there's like something new to grapple with.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean I don't really remember the last time like a time period like that where you had this like yeah just this level of uncertainty like words lose their meaning. um yeah, like with the tariffs now you like they're being challenged in court, so I mean it took a little while, so so but yeah, it's like very uncertain. Like I think it's definitely like
Wait,
an interesting time.
the tariffs has have been challenged in court? What do you mean?
Dude, I'm not even fully read up. I'm a little bit out of my depth, but yeah, that was like
Sure,
the new
sure.
thing. I mean, people
Yeah,
were speculating that this would happen, but yeah, so it seems like now this is actually coming to fruition a bit. And I mean, it's not the first time. Like Trump's executive orders, some of them have been challenged in like local courts, like state courts,
Yeah.
and then it can go to the Supreme Court as well. But yeah, like I think what was the one that his executive order got vetoed by the court. I forget what it was, but it was something very minor. So I was like, damn, he can't even get that shit done. Like, imagine what. So yeah, tariffs is obviously like a very big one. And there's the WTO as well. Um, I guess the countries can like file disputes with the WTO and like say, hey, this is un. So I think China did that, right? They're like, hey, they're putting these tariffs on me like on the grounds of it's like a punishment for fentanyl, but it's not. So there's like different institutions involved with this. Like, it can get very complex.
I think the big thing in the background of all of this, right, was like in the first few days of the new presidency, everyone was talking about Golden Bull Run.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I remember
Right?
it was called Golden Age. Yeah, they were
Yeah,
saying like
and
it's the
then
golden age of America.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
the story behind it, right? You had Elon Musk, we're going to cut the deficit. Trump saying, there's going to be some pain in the short term, but we're thinking 4, 8. In China they think 100 years ahead. But ironically, I think there's been a bit of a subtle regime change already in that
yeah, yeah. Actually, a little bit. Yeah, yeah. I think you're
you
definitely
see an
onto
Elon
something.
Musk
Yep.
saying, coming out against these spending bills, Doge wasn't able to be as successful as what they thought. It was going to save trillions of dollars with all these cuts, but it got pushed back from the lawyers, Supreme Court, all these other things. And I think the
Yeah,
simplest way of realizing this, and you see it a lot on Twitter, is this expression. Nothing stops this train. The train of deficit spending, debts growing, that is not something that you can simply change like that because of the pain involved and the aftershocks which are felt. And I think you could argue that this essentially is the true litmus test for an asset like Bitcoin.
Yep.
Uncertainty, flip-flopping, politics becoming almost like a stage show of actors. And there's many parallels you can make across all different points in history. You can really look to the all different empires, and all these different similarities are very obvious between them all. And I think ultimately we've had that regime change now where Musk wants to go back to working more on his rockets. You're seeing this sort of capitulation, tariffs lowering, spending bills coming out again. Essentially, they wanted to go down the hard route, but didn't have
It's too hard.
exactly.
It's
Too
too hard.
hard, yeah,
No,
yeah.
like even
Entrenched.
so you had Musk. It's
Uh-huh.
actually very different from like the initial like November 2024, right? Like championing Musk on stage. Yeah, so sounds good, but like now, yeah, Musk is out. Even before he was out, it was like very clear that Doge was not going to really be a significant thing. Like they were literally posting like, hey, on their Twitter account, like, hey guys, we stopped spending, like we canceled the purchase of like 300 software seats, like software subscription. Like, okay, like if they're posting that, I feel like they're bragging about like we're cutting spending on 300 subscription accounts like Microsoft Excel or whatever. It's like, okay, you're really scraping the barrel here. And that was like months ago. But now he's like, formally out. Doge is still around, but yeah, it definitely seems like it's going to be a very modest branch of the government. And then Besant's role has expanded beyond the treasury into like trade negotiation, which is probably good. So like Trump wasn't even, yeah, like earlier this month he kind of like cut his involvement in that. He's like he posted on Truth Social. He's like, yeah, 80% tariffs on China sounds good. It's up to Scott, right? So he's like distancing himself away from the tariffs, leaving it up to Scott Besson, which is, it seems like it went well. Having him lead negotiations, like taking a more pragmatic approach, and that means multiple things, right? It means like, okay, yeah, it's pragmatic. Like we're not going to cut spending. That's unrealistic. But we're also not going to like have these, very like intense tariffs, where it's not going to be to the same extent. And yeah, so there definitely is like a soft regime change
Mhm.
with some of those key figures in the White House and the administration. So,
And the last point that I'll make on this as well is if you look at the recent all-time high that we had in Bitcoin, Bitcoin didn't break all-time highs measured in pounds, my home currency. It hit all-time highs in dollars, maybe some of the other emerging markets shitcoin currencies. But I think if you look at the euro, the pound, maybe
that's a
even
good
these
that's a
other
good point.
these other
It's a
currencies,
good point actually.
Mm.
you could make the argument that in sense this recent all-time high we've seen priced in US dollar is as a result of weakening in the dollar,
Yeah.
uncertainty in this country, and various other factors, which for me is a really interesting point to see that dislocation where normally
Yeah,
you're used to seeing it hit all-time highs across everything all at once. I think it's
yeah,
a point
yeah.
everyone
I
should
think
think
I think it's actually good to highlight that that it is like part of. I mean, there's like many boxes that Bitcoin checks. So, and now one of them, which this hasn't been really like applicable until recently. And then, yeah, one of them now is like that flight out of the US. Like you saw it with capital coming back to Europe, coming back to China.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like, okay, Bitcoin's like, it's like a little bit like an international way to express that view. Because like, I mean, if you just speculate a little bit, like where's the demand coming from? Like, what kind of large buyers will be interested in this besides like the micro strategy, the cantors, whatever, these treasury companies, but yeah, it's actual countries. Like, what is the reason the countries want to buy it? Like, it's not, they're not looking for an alternative to the euro. Like, it's not like no one cares. Like, they're looking for an alternative potentially to the dollar, and for more specifically for the dollar as a store of value asset. Um, so yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you would notice that kind of like dislocation. Um, yeah,
So
so
so are you saying that yeah, US will stay like a medium of exchange, like for doing trade and stuff like
I
that?
mean,
It's gonna
there's a
stay
lot of efforts
permanent, but maybe countries will hold
for
their
Bitcoin.
reserves
It
in
doesn't
Bitcoin.
represent that, but so yeah, Bitcoin is not like feasible for a medium of exchange. So I mean,
Exactly.
there is a lot of, so yeah, it doesn't really represent that, like, right, like the three principles of money.
Right.
Bitcoin can check two of them, maybe three in the future or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, countries definitely are like, especially in like the Asia and like BRICS area,
Hmm.
they already are looking to like have their own payment systems. I think we've discussed this in depth actually. Um, but yeah, that probably doesn't really translate to Bitcoin.
Exactly. All right. Shall we switch to crypto a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
No
I
more
think
macro dooming.
uh, it's interesting, but you gotta have the stomach for it, you know. Let's another thing that you need to have the stomach for, holding along 1 billy, 1 yard
Oh, wow,
in
wow.
BTC long on Hyperliquid. James Wynn, a bit of an OG, I believe. What uh, what was the story here, Darren?
I mean, first thing, I think it was the biggest position
One
recorded in
one
history.
yard, 1 billion.
1
That's
billion.
crazy.
Is it like across centralized exchanges too, like,
I
or is it
don't
just
know across
dexes, like?
centralized exchanges. I think it definitely for a DEX, 100%. I mean, it depends what you want
Yeah,
to
okay,
say, if it is a DEX or not,
that makes
Hyperliquid.
sense.
That's up for everyone else to debate. But this guy essentially had this huge position open. And the most interesting thing about it for me, right, is in previous times, you remember we had, I think we spoke about this maybe last week, there was the guy to the moon. He got massively liquidated, doing a huge long on Hyperliquid. But the irony with this guy, $1 billion in long open interest he had, he didn't get liquidated. He was massively
He
in
closed it
profit.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it in the tweet. 87 million he was in profit, and he didn't get liquidated. So, that's a story in itself. The fact that this slow grind higher that we saw, and I've seen a lot of speculation over the last few weeks that Alameda is back in the order books. And if anyone's as cracked as me in the head can remember, for me, I do actually remember certain periods of price action in the markets. So, like, I can kind of remember, the behavior of the market in like 21 to 22. Then we had, other periods where the market behaved differently. And I feel like there has been a real sense of the price action, especially in the last month or so, that is reminiscent of 2019 to 2021, 2022, where
What do you
we've
mean?
seen these sort of grind ups, then these pullbacks where everyone's convinced, no, it's over, get out, get in the lifeboats, the Titanic's sinking, it's over. But then only to wake up in the morning and then, like, coins have pushed through whatever you want to say, resistance, all this stuff. And it reminds me a lot of 2021, a lot. And it could just be hearsay and rumors that Alameda are, pumping out positions again. But supposedly this guy did have certain transactions linked to certain wallets from Alameda. So it's a bit of interesting CT law for the new
A
guys
little
out there.
CT conspiracy theory. Okay. Yeah. I mean, our team was tracking this actually. Yeah. Like right after he closed it, we saw it like, oh shit. Actually, yeah, it was like 1.2 billion at his peak. When he closed it, and then actually shortly after, yeah, it was only a few hours later, like flipped short. Um, and yeah, he was like continuing to build up that short position, like scaling into it pretty often. Like you'd have to keep refreshing it to see. Yeah, and he just, I don't know. He's a gambler, or not. He's obviously like a sophisticated guy to like have that money to blow. But yeah, it's like almost like a Shakespearean type, character, like a fatal flaw. You know what I mean? Like a young prodigy, something like that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and he round tripped it. So any of you guys out there who you
I
round
mean, he has
tripped
100K
got
followers. Like, I think it's an expensive way to buy. I think you can run some
230.
bots. I think you can run some bots that are cheaper than that. Yeah, 230. Okay, yeah. So I think he
He went up.
he could have sped run his way to 230K followers without blowing. Was it 90 M? But that's his path. Yeah.
and I think from a tech perspective, Hyperliquid, it ran those liquidations, the
It
platform
did.
carried on running.
Yeah. Actually, the max discount was only 0.35% from Hyperliquid and Binance. So it was actually, yeah, very tight spread. Yeah, very, very efficient. So, I mean, they've had, yeah, I think the platform has grown. Like it's not like Pump Fund or something where you have like these massive days, or like some of these Solana decks, where like you have these random days where there's completely spikes. So I think Hyperliquids has been able to have more slow and steady growth over the years, and like, I don't know, be able to react accordingly. So yeah, all a good showing for like the, you know kind of like the only real decentralized competitor to like a Binance or something.
Wait. People were saying things about that as well. They were saying Jeff or Hyperliquid, they have a sort of exploit or a hack, and I don't know, they do something with the validators and run it back. And then a few weeks
Because
later,
they know all of them, yeah.
but wait, yeah, exactly. And then a few weeks later, last week, Sui and Cetus, they have a massive exploit. Basically, the whole chain is drained, right? Um, and they do something similar. They kind of like pause the network, or I don't know what they did.
Yeah, they paused. It was like 160 M of the. It was like 220 M USDC that was taken, and like 160 of it was just frozen
Right. So
by
explain
Way
something to me,
Foundation.
right? So first off, like people were saying, like, and now people are like up in arms about Sui and it's not decentralized and blah 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 blah. So you're saying like, yeah, Hyperliquid's like the decentralized alternative to these sexes, and I think we
Yeah,
as like an industry love to champion them, but at the same time, people are maybe not totally off on calling that out a little bit, or like that
I mean, well, for
contrast.
me, like, I mean, what I guess decentralized, like as a word, decentralized, that does have a meaning. Yeah, it is supposed to mean like it's distributed across. Yeah, it's not supposed to be like have 10 validators just run by the same dude. But what, more colloquially, like what it's become,
Sure.
the word is like evolved to kind of mean like no KYC. Okay, so like, and
Hmm.
this is the case since like
Okay.
2021,
Okay.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so I don't think yeah, it's for years, like people, this is kind of like the slang that it's evolved into. It's like, oh, like anyone can use, yeah, like, a North Korean guy can use it, right? Like, I mean, I think that carries more weight than like the technical architecture of like the chain, the amount of validators, where they are in the world, and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, I mean, can a guy in Iran, can a guy in North Korea use it? It's like, if he can, like, dude, I don't know. It's seeming decentralized to me, right? Like,
Uh,
that's kind of where the word has evolved, I think, in the minds, like the hearts and minds of CT, especially of
yeah.
what it's
Yeah. Yeah.
evolved to mean.
I'm not sure if it
Yeah.
has really evolved, or like or you just coined it like
No,
live
I
on
mean,
air,
like,
but
it's hard to quantify that. Like, how do you quantify the change? Yeah, like the changing
no,
meaning of a word over time. But I think that definitely is the case. like Sway.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
I can see it.
were people like I didn't really see that much outrage about it. Like Blast did the same thing. Like I mean, there's countless examples of this kind of thing. Um, I mean, what do you like? Do you want the 160M to just go away? I don't know. Like ask the guys on Sway if they would prefer that. Um, they can make that choice. You know, have that like illusion of decentralization, or get your money back. I think I know what they'll choose, but yeah. So I mean, it's like performance wise, like Hyperliquid, like performance wise, is definitely like there's no comparison, right? In volumes, um, yeah, it's the only one that's like on par
I
with
think it's more
the
about like the
centralized
immutability
exchanges.
bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
There's another way of thinking about it as well, where, and this is like some old school, boring blockchain shit. This is the idea of the blockchain trilemma. Afterwards, it was coined, the stablecoin trilemma. I think
Yeah,
Vitalik was
yeah,
the
the
one who
same
brought
thing.
it out.
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's a big triangle. You've got decentralization, speed, security. The more
Yeah.
you push one in one direction, you have to make sacrifices in another direction. So I
Yeah.
think the easiest way of thinking about how decentralized can something be, I think it's much more on a scale, right? Because ultimately, the further down the route of decentralization you go, you're going to sacrifice on other facets. Same way,
Exactly.
further down
Exactly.
you go on speed, you're going to sacrifice on security decentralization. Now, in terms of this exploit we saw on Sui, Sway, the blockchain, the difference with what happened with Hyperliquid, I'd say, is that was I'm pretty sure it was a smart contract exploit or hack which took these funds, whereas with Hyperliquid it was a listed coin,
It was an
jelly
Oracle.
jelly.
It
Yeah,
was an Oracle exploit.
and it was a
Yeah, and
coordinated.
that's also an app. Like Hyperliquid is a chain now, but it's like predominantly an app, right? So
Mhm.
that comes with different considerations as well. Like yeah, that's their in their domain to list and delist things, right? Like how many how many perp dexes are there that just let you like make a market for any asset? I think it's actually it's like none, right? Like DYDX has something where they green light like a bunch of small cap memes and stuff, and people can add liquidity as they choose. But like, yeah, I mean, especially when you compare it to like just apps and you look at it as an app and not as much of a chain. That's one way to look at it. I mean, I think Hyperliquid is actually the proper approach for a long time. Like, I mean, it started from the bottom, so yeah, it started like from the complete decentralization side. Like you have Bitcoin, right? It's like the most decentralized. So people started building like smart contract chains and stuff like that. Like, okay, a little bit like 1% less decentralized, and then another one launches and it's 2% less. But it should have been the opposite. It should have been like the most centralized, and then like what is the bare minimum amount of decentralization you can have? Um, yeah, to be adequate, right? So that's kind of like what Hyperliquid has done, basically, right? Like completely prioritize um, the performance, right? With like the bare minimum amount of decentralization. Like I guess Solana too a little bit, but yeah, Hyperliquid is like the best example of it. And then figure that part out later, right? So which one would you
Yeah.
rather have? So something like Hyperliquid where you have the users and then you can build out the infra later, or you have a ghost chain that's can brag about being decentralized, but
Makes
it has
sense.
no use
Makes
case.
sense.
So
Makes
so
sense.
I,
That's
I like to
true.
see more
That's
stuff
true.
like that, like
All
more
right.
more chains just completely prioritizing performance.
Mm.
Well, it makes for a more interesting industry, at least instead of everyone's trying to
And it makes
copy
for
each
real
other.
use cases, right? So like
Exactly. You can run
most of the
different type of
problems,
apps on
yeah,
that chain.
it's about management, it's about implementation. Like decentralization isn't like the big problem preventing like a lot of things. It's actually just like better software, better, right? Like you had that Coinbase exploit, right? Like that's not a problem of people are saying like, oh, use Hyperliquid so that your KYC picks don't get stolen on Coinbase. But actually, you could just use Binance. Like you could just use a better exchange. You don't have to use a DEX, right? Like that doesn't happen on Binance because it's just a better exchange with better
Mm.
management. Yeah, better operations.
It's a tricky argument, because I think there's fors and against across all elements. Decentralization first, performance second, performance first, decentralization second. And I think there's numerous examples where both have done pretty well. But I think the fundamental big question, right, is that the more decentralized that you make something, can you always trust human nature to not fuck with it, to not try and find holes, to not try and find inefficiencies? And as the industry grows and grows and grows, I think the understated thing is that it is really essentially built on the bedrock of Bitcoin being so decentralized in its nature. Albeit
Yeah,
there are a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people who hold a lot of
That is true.
Bitcoin
Yeah,
and supply is like concentrated. But if you want to build applications to service tons and tons of users, is it not more pertinent that anyone can use an application anytime, anywhere, any place, no matter what day of the
yeah, yeah.
week?
That's definitely more important. So like you can say no KYC is like the simple way to, but yeah, anyone can use it anytime, any place. Like yeah, that the accessibility. So you can call it accessibility, you can call it no KYC, whatever you want. But like I think it's become clear that that is clearly the biggest, um, like the more important part. You know what I mean? Like it's where the money speaks, right? Like you can look at the trading volumes, you can look at like the capital,
Yeah.
right? Like kids that are like using their mom's credit card to buy stuff on Pump Fun. It's like it's not, you know what I mean?
No.
Like they just want to, like it's just fun. You know what I mean? Like they're not, uh, they definitely don't care about the architecture of Solana, right? It's
Sure.
purely the app and the user
Sure.
interface.
By the way, Darren, it's not lost on me. Speaking about Hyperliquid, the color of your shirt is nice
Well,
shade of
look.
I don't
teal,
know. It looks more teal. Yeah, it's like a
representing.
teal.
It depends, right? It depends on the lighting, maybe, of my screen.
Yeah.
Guys, short and sweet one this week. We do have to wrap it up, unfortunately. It was certainly interesting touching back on macro a little bit more this time around. Um, and then yeah, the crazy BTC long on Hyperliquid and with everything that's going on there and how it speaks to how I think the wider industry and the different chains are like evolving and also finding their own niches. That's been very interesting. So thank you for those insights. It was a pleasure as always. Thank you to the speakers as well. This was Market Cap, where we cover and explore current markets together with other sharp market participants. Next week we'll have on a guest again, so be back and join us then. For daily updates on current events, you can also join our daily Intel Telegram channel. The link, you can find it in our bio. And you can join us on our next show. We're live every Thursday from 10 a.m. Eastern Time onwards on X and YouTube as well, live. So for reminders, turn on notifications for Alea Research. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, gang. And catch you on the next Market Cap.
Yep.
Peace out.
Thank you guys.